Ambe Steels, जे बन्छ दिको बन्छ. Real, जमघट जहाँ real party pack त्यहाँ.
Proud to be associated with Kantipur News.
Tensions flare as Israel and Iran exchange heavy fire. Iran denies breaking the ceasefire while Israel says otherwise. US President Donald Trump calls further strikes a violation. And in local news, the government has formed a committee to investigate on immigration scandal amid opposition protest. This and more on today's Kantipur News. Good evening, I am Aprila Ghising Lama and these are the headlines of the hour. Government forms high-level panel to probe immigration visa scandal. Opposition divided as some reject committee alleging bias and ministerial involvement. Local governments announced budgets for fiscal year 2082-83 BS. Hetauda lead with 2.90 billion Nepali rupees. Nepalganj, Sangunaran and Annapurna prioritize infrastructure, employment and tourism. Iran launches missile strikes on US bases in retaliation for nuclear facility attacks. Trump credits diplomacy for preventing prolonged war in the Middle East. Nepal crosses Japan by 9 wickets in the ongoing ACC Under-16 East Zone Cup. Continues title defense with clinical performance. Welcome back. Home Minister Ramesh Lekhak has stated that the high-level inquiry committee formed by the government to investigate issues related to Tribhuvan International Airport's immigration system and the recent visit visa controversy will soon submit its report, including proposed solutions. Speaking at today's session of the House of Representatives, Minister Lekhak clarified the committee was established in line with a political agreement with the main opposition party, the CPN Maoist Centre, to resume parliamentary proceedings. He emphasized that the committee's work will not interfere with the ongoing investigation being conducted by the Commission for the Investigation of Abuse of Authority, CIAA. Minister Lekhak acknowledged long-standing problems in Nepal's immigration system and stressed that the committee's mandate is to identify all such issues and recommend comprehensive reforms.
सम्मानित सदनमा भएको सहमति बमोजिम अध्यागमन र भिजिट भिसासँग सम्बन्धित विषयमा अख्तियार दुरुपयोग अनुसन्धान आयोगबाट हाल भइरहेको अनुसन्धानको कार्यमा असर नपर्ने गरी नेपाल सरकार मन्त्री परिषदको निर्णय अनुसार देहाय बमोजिमको कार्यादेश सहितको उच्च स्तरीय अध्ययन एवं छानबिन समिति गठन गरिएको छ भन्ने म निवेदन गर्न चाहन्छु। यो समितिले हाम्रा अध्यागमनका समग्र विषयकामा देखा परेका समस्या समाधान हुन सक्ने गरी सुझाव प्रतिवेदन पेश हुनेछ र त्यस अनुरूप हामी अगाडि बढ्नेछौँ भन्ने पनि म प्रतिबद्धता व्यक्त गर्न चाहन्छु।
However, the opposition Rashtriya Swatantra Party, RSP, has rejected the newly formed inquiry committee. In the House session, RSP lawmaker Sonim Bwagli accused the Home Minister of indirect involvement in the visit visa scandal and announced that his party would not accept the committee in its current form. He further warned that the RSP would continue its protest unless the composition of the committee is reviewed. Rashtriya Prajatantra Party lawmaker Gyanendra Shai also voiced strong objections, arguing that a committee formed under the Home Minister's recommendation cannot conduct an impartial investigation.
यहाँ लुटको कुरा छ, संगठित भ्रष्टाचारको कुरा छ, मानव तस्करीको कुरा छ। त्यसैले यो शंकरदास बैरागीप्रति मेरो कुनै व्यक्तिगत आग्रह छैन। म राम्रोसँग चिन्दछु उहाँलाई, तर विगत 10 वर्षदेखि उहाँ स्थायी सत्ताको प्रिय पात्र हुनुहुन्छ। 7 वर्ष परराष्ट्र सचिव बन्नुभयो, 3 वर्ष मुख्य सचिव बन्नुभयो र रहस्यमय ढङ्गले उहाँको बहिर्गमन हुन्छ मुख्य सचिवबाट, राष्ट्रिय सुरक्षा सल्लाहकार बन्नुहुन्छ। त्यसपछि उहाँ 1-2 दिनमा निवृत्त हुन लागेका अर्का मुख्य सचिव आउनुहुन्छ र त्यो पिरियडमा दशौं करोड अरबौंको टेलिकम माफियाद्वारा रचिएको घोटालाहरू भएका छन्। त्यसैले शंकरदास बैरागी अहिलेका निगाह प्राप्त नेताहरूको गुड बुक्समा रहनुपर्ने स्वार्थको द्वन्द्वबाट जेलिएका पात्र हुनुहुन्छ। यो उहाँले यो जिम्मेवारी लिनुहुन्न भन्ने हाम्रो पार्टीको मत छ। त्यसैले उहाँ स्वयं सक्षम निकायहरूको रडारमा हुनुहुन्छ। सक्षम निकायहरूको रडारमा भएका व्यक्तिहरूले कसको छानबिन गर्ने?
यो 18 वर्षमा 14 जना गृहमन्त्रीहरू भएका छन्। यो 14 जना गृहमन्त्रीलाई नै अनुसन्धानको घेरामा ल्याउनुपर्छ भनेर हामीले निरन्तर माग उठाइरहेका छौँ। तर अहिले कस्तो भयो? दूधको साँची बिरालो। दूधको साँची बिरालो राखेर पनि समस्याको समाधान हुन्छ त? अहिले जसका विरुद्धमा छानबिन हुनुपर्ने हो उनीहरूले नै कर्मचारीहरूलाई राखेर जुन छानबिन समिति बनाए यसले चाहिँ विधिको शासन स्थापना गर्छ भन्ने मलाई लाग्दैन।
Meanwhile, the CPN Maoist Center, the main opposition party, has welcomed the formation of the committee, stating it was established according to the two-point agreement reached with the ruling coalition.
उच्च स्तरीय अध्ययन तथा छानबिन समिति गठन गरेको छ, जसको जानकारी माननीय गृह मन्त्रीजीले भर्खरै सम्मानित सदनमा प्रस्तुत गर्नुभएको छ। म सरकारलाई यो समिति छानबिनको लागि अध्ययनको लागि बनाएको छ, उच्च स्तरीय बनाएको छ, त्यसको लागि हार्दिक धन्यवाद व्यक्त गर्दछु।
The decision to form the committee was approved during Monday's cabinet meeting. In today's parliamentary session, ministers are currently responding to questions raised during discussions on ministerial budgets. The government is expected to pass the appropriation bill today. Now, moving on, the Rashtriya Swatantra Party has expressed dissatisfaction over the failure to form the committee they had demanded. Speaking to Kantipur News, RSP Chief Whip Santosh Pariyar reiterated that the party still insists on a judicial committee led by a former judge. An informal meeting of the party's parliamentary members was conducted to decide on further steps. The RSP has made it clear that the parliamentary deadlock will continue until the demands are addressed.
मुख्य गरी संसदीय सुनवाई समिति उच्च संसदीय समिति वा उच्च स्तरीय न्यायिक छानबिन समिति जुन जाँचबुझ ऐन 2026 अन्तर्गत हुन्छ र जो चाहिँ नि पूर्व न्यायाधीश सर्वोच्चका अथवा त्यो तहको हुन्छ र त्यसले न्याय निरूपणका लागि समिति त्यो स्तरको समिति बन्नुपर्छ भन्ने हाम्रो माग थियो। अब अहिले यसरी पूर्व मुख्य सचिव अनि त्यसमा पनि फेरि सम्बन्धित जुन जुन मन्त्रालय यसमा संलग्न त्यो मन्त्रालयका सचिवहरू सदस्य रहने गरी यो खालको जो आएको छ यसमा हामीले हाम्रो विषयवस्तुको उठानलाई सरकारले गम्भीर रूपमा लिएको जस्तो प्रतीत भएको छैन।
Municipalities across Nepal have unveiled their budgets for the fiscal year 2082-83 BS with key focus areas including infrastructure, economic development and social programs. In Hetauda sub-metropolitan city, a budget of Rs 2.90 billion has been presented. The city's internal revenue is expected to contribute over 627 million Nepali rupees, while 927 million rupees is anticipated through revenue sharing. Grants from the provincial and federal governments are projected at 114.5 million Nepali rupees and 1.195 billion Nepali rupees respectively. Additionally, 36 million will be managed through loans from the Town Development Fund. Notable allocations include 62 million Nepali rupees for environmental and disaster management and nearly 9.8 million rupees toward employment programs and small-scale industries such as cheese making, woodcraft and traditional products. Key infrastructure projects include the development of an auto village, a water fun park, and completion of an integrated bus terminal. Nepalganj sub-metropolitan city has announced a budget of 1.64 billion Nepali rupees. While higher than last year's figure, the city remains heavily reliant on federal and provincial grants. The policy emphasizes broadening the tax base rather than increasing existing taxes. Changunarung municipality in Bhaktapur has proposed a budget of 1.84 billion Nepali rupees. Of last year's 2.12 billion budget, only 53.78% was spent. The new fiscal plan focuses on sustainable tourism, local enterprise promotion, and preservation of cultural heritage. The municipality will continue its scholarship and saving programs for school children, now expanding to include boys. In Gandaki province, Annapurna rural municipality has proposed a budget of 651.5 million Nepali rupees. Of this, over 433 million is allocated for operational expenses and nearly 218 million for capital projects. Funding sources include revenue sharing, various conditional and special grants from the federal and provincial governments, as well as internal revenue. Key development priorities include agriculture, tourism, energy and infrastructure aligned with the vision of a prosperous Annapurna. These budget announcements reflect the varied priorities of local governments as they aim to address infrastructure needs, promote local economies and improve public services across the country. Now it is time for our segment Public Pulse, where you text us with your opinion.
Public Pulse.
Here is today's question. What do you think of the direct involvement of US in Iran and Israel war? Your options are A, choosing a side, B, should play a mediator's role instead, C, risks escalation of war, or D, no comment. Visit www.kantipurtv.com or www.ekantipur.com to share your opinion with us. Now, the federal parliament is set to pass the budget today. The budget has faced strong criticism from ruling party lawmakers themselves during the parliamentary discussions. However, no action will be taken in response to these criticisms. Even those lawmakers who voiced opposition will vote in favor of the budget based on the party whip. During the discussions, ruling party lawmakers expressed serious dissatisfaction, stating that the development budget for the upcoming fiscal year is largely controlled by the Prime Minister, ministers, and influential leaders. Despite this discontent, no changes will be made to the budget.
As with every year, this year too, the budget has been heavily criticized both by ruling and opposition parties for allocating excessive funds to areas associated with the Prime Minister, Finance Minister, top leaders and powerful figures. Rather than assessing the budget on its merits, Nepal's parliament tends to support or oppose it based on party alignment. This year, however, even lawmakers from the ruling coalition have voiced strong disapproval.
गणेशमान सिंहको सम्मानलाई साट्ने ढङ्गको जुन विनियोजन भएको छ यो गलत भएको छ यो खालको चाहिँ गर्नु गलत भएको छ
Despite a strong opposition, parliamentarians from ruling parties are expected to vote in favor when the budget comes up for decision. Even CPN-UML lawmaker Surya Thapa's party has already issued a whip to vote in support of the budget. Historically, in Nepal's parliamentary system, no budget, regardless of how much opposition it faces, has ever been altered. This year is expected to be no different. Lawmaker from Nepali Congress Arjun Ghising also expressed dissatisfaction and called for a parliamentary investigation committee.
शीर्ष नेताहरूको जिल्लाको तुलनामा बजेट एकातिर राखेर अर्कोतिर चाहिँ देशैभरिको बजेट एकतिर हिसाब गरौँ के स्थिति हुन्छ त्यसैले म त्यो सुशासन समितिले त्यसलाई हेरेर गम्भीरतापूर्वक अब यहाँबाट तपाईहरुले नमानिने सुशासन समितिको सभापति हुनुहुन्छ हुन्न छानबिन तपाईहरुले गर्न सक्नुहुन्छ त्यसलाई हेर्नुस्
Ghising's vocal criticism, however, is unlikely to translate into action as he too will vote in favor of the budget on Tuesday. The underlying issue remains that the budget distribution is unjust, favoring areas with political influence every year. In this year's budget, Ramechhap district alone received 66 projects worth 848.7 million Nepali rupees under the Ministry of Urban Development. But the local representatives Kancharam Tamang of Nepali Congress gave a fiery speech in Parliament criticizing the imbalanced distribution. This time, the Ministry of Urban Development has become the main target of criticism. The dominance of Minister Prakash Mansingh is clearly visible. The budget includes a whopping 7,538 small-scale projects, and the minister has allocated over 590 million Nepali rupees for projects named after his father, Ganesh Mansingh. This includes funding for the construction of office for the Tarun Dal, which is the party's youth wing. Despite federal guidelines to avoid projects under 30 million rupees, there are projects worth 3.5 million for the Ganesh Mansingh Park. The Ministry of Physical Infrastructure and Transport's Alternative Auxiliary Highway Development Program also appears to be under the control of power holders. Out of 16.72 billion rupees allocated under this title, a large portion is directed toward the home districts of influential Member of Parliaments and ministers. For instance, Sankhua Sabha, Home District of Energy Minister Deepak Khadka, is set to receive 240 million rupees. Jhapa, the Home District of Prime Minister KP Sharma Oli and Infrastructure Minister Devendra Dahal, is set to receive over 800 million rupees. And Rupandehi, Home District of Finance Minister Bishnu Podal, is likely to receive more than 1 billion rupees. 690 million rupees has been allocated for the Damak-Gauradaha-Gauriganj link program in Jhapa, which is home district of Prime Minister Oli and Minister for Physical Infrastructure Dahal.
यत्रो आलोचना चाहिँ खेपेर पनि यसरी चाहिँ लाचार भएर चाहिँ यस्तो काम गर्ने भने के हो त हैन यो चाहिँ खाली त्यसमा चाहिँ त्यो जुन अहिलेको चुनावको जुन कुरा छ चुनाव जित्ने पैसा धेरै हालेर चाहिँ बजेट धेरै हालेर चुनाव जितिन्छ भन्ने जुन मानसिकता छ त्यो मानसिकताले घर गरे भएर यस्तो भएको छ
Projects like the Provincial Capital Connection Highway upgrade, road improvement programs, and key highways such as the Mid-Hill Highway, Karnali, Kali Gandaki, and Koshi corridors have been allocated insufficient budgets. A strong government could have corrected past mistakes and ensured equitable distribution rather than favoring the same power circles again. Unfortunately, the Finance Minister has failed in this regard. A report by Suman Pantha for Kantipur News, Kathmandu.
Welcome back. With the U.S. getting involved in the Israel-Iran war, there are growing global concerns that the conflict could escalate further. Although Israel and Iran are nearly 4,000 kilometers away from Nepal, the prolonged war could have significant impacts on Nepal as well, particularly on consumer purchasing power, remittance inflow, and employment. What impact might the Israel-Iran war have on Nepal?
About 40% of the world's crude oil is produced by OPEC countries, with Iran contributing around 4 to 5%. Although Nepal has no direct trade or diplomatic relations with Iran, India imports crude oil from Iran, and any disruption in that supply would directly affect Nepal as well.
भारतले जे नीति लिन्छ त्यसको प्रभाव चाहिँ हामीलाई पर्ने हुन्छ र भारतले कुन हिसाबले यो युद्धलाई हेरेको छ र कुन हिसाबले यसलाई चाहिँ मूल्याङ्कन गरेर आफ्नो नीति तय गर्छ त्यसमा चाहिँ नेपालको पनि अवस्था रहने अवस्था छ त्यसले गर्दाखेरि महत्त्वपूर्ण पाटो छ त्यो हुँदा हुँदै पनि सरकार एकदमै चनाखो भएर चाहिँ यसलाई कसरी यदि क्राइसिस आयो भने त्यो क्राइसिसलाई कसरी समाधान गर्ने भन्ने कुराहरू सोच्नु जरुरी छ.
The price of crude oil has already increased by $10 per barrel since the conflict escalated between Israel and Iran. International media report it could rise up to $120 per barrel. On top of that, following U.S. military involvement, Iran announced a closure of the Strait of Hormuz, through which 20% of the world's crude oil supply passes. If Iran acts on this, it will seriously disrupt global supply chains. Despite being aware of this situation, the Nepal government and private sector remain in a wait-and-watch mode.
यसको इम्प्याक्ट कतिसम्म पर्छ र यो वारले कति स्कालेट भएर कति लामो अगाडि बढ्छ त्यसपछि मात्रै एउटा ठोस प्लानिङ गर्न सकिन्छ. अहिलेलाई त टेम्पोररी प्लानिङ भनेको अब हामीले आफ्नो स्टकहरूलाई म्यानेज गरेर राख्ने हैन र सरकारलाई अब हाम्रो बोर्डरहरू म्यानेज गर्नलाई र यो रुटहरू हवाई रुटहरू मिलाउनलाई त्यसको प्रभाव चाहिँ मिनिमाइज गर्नको लागि हामीले सरकारलाई रिक्वेस्ट गर्ने लबी गर्ने कुराहरू हुन्छ.
Beyond crude oil, if the Gulf countries become involved in the war, hundreds of thousands of Nepalese working there could lose their jobs. This would heavily affect Nepal's remittance, employment, and domestic consumption capacity. Moreover, since the main air transit routes connecting Europe and Asia pass through the Gulf region, Nepal's tourism sector is also likely to suffer. Most tourists from Europe and the US enter Nepal via transit through Dubai, Doha, or Istanbul. If war forces travelers to use alternative routes, it will raise travel costs and could lead to a decline in tourist arrivals. With Binod Koju on camera, a report by Bharat Rawal for Kantipur News, Kathmandu.
Sports News.
Welcome back. Defending champions Nepal have secured their second consecutive victory in the ongoing ACC Men's Under-16 East Zone Cup, cricket being held in Malaysia. In today's match, the young Nepali team comfortably defeated Japan by 9 wickets. With this win, Nepal has climbed to the top of the Group A. At the Kozil Tunku Jafar Oval, Japan won the toss and opted to bat first. However, they were bowled out just 80 runs in 34.3 overs. Nepal's Subham Khanal delivered an outstanding bowling performance to dismantle the Japanese side. He took 5 wickets, putting Japan under significant pressure. For Nepal, Subham bowled 10 overs, including 3 maidens, conceding just 15 runs and taking 5 wickets. Abhay Yadav took 2 wickets, while Susil Rawal and captain Bipin Sharma claimed 1 wicket each. Nepal chased down the target in just 14.2 overs, losing only 1 wicket. Though Joy Thapa was dismissed for 1 run by Dogat, Shivans Bazagai and Prashidha Jaisi built an unbeaten partnership of 76 runs in 69 balls, leading Nepal to an easy victory. Shivans remained not out on 38, while Prashidha was unbeaten on 33. Earlier in their first match, Nepal had defeated Singapore by 6 wickets, while Japan had recorded a massive 215-run victory over Bhutan. With this second win, Nepal now has 4 points from 2 matches and leads Group A. Japan, having played the same number of games, has 2 points. Nepal is the winner of the last 3 consecutive editions of this tournament and is now aiming for their 4th title. Nepal will face Indonesia on Sunday in the 3rd group match and will play their final group match against Bhutan on the upcoming Tuesday. That is all for the moment. Thank you for watching. Our colleague Rupa Khatka will join us at 7 p.m. Stay with us.